Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Mythwind live stream. Today is August the 6th. I am Brendan, and I'm joined by.
Nathan,
There it
I
is.
am here as well.
We're co-designers on the upcoming uh, board game Mythwind, and you probably already know that because you're tuning in to our live stream. So thanks for jumping in. It's been a couple weeks since we have done a live stream, and so we have a few things to update you all on, and really excited to kind of get into stuff. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to list them wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, and we'll make sure to get them. And a little housekeeping thing. I think last live stream we did, I forgot to post the podcast, and so I might just dump both of the podcast um, on when I finish this and when we get the podcast going. So, okay, today we want to run through a couple things. Kind of the current state of game design on Mythwind, a little bit of a Kickstarter progress update where we are with all that stuff, and kind of finally this, I guess the area of most design or something right now, and that is on our kind of game trays integration with our player boards. And so we have a few things that we're really kind of honing in on there, and we're going to chat about that in a bit. But before we get there, Nathan, maybe give us a little update. Where are you currently spending your game design hours on Mythwind?
Right now, I'm iterating a lot on the roles themselves. So, kind of fiddling with the farmer and the crafter a little bit, trying to figure out in a game like this that goes on for in-game years, how to create an arc for the roles, how to scale it, how to make the game appropriate when you're 4 years into building your town up, how should the farmer be interacting with the town then, and what will the town look like? What will the farmer look like? So, um, yeah, kind of just trying different things there and conceptualizing that as well.
Yeah, and so we're releasing. We've done a little bit of a pivot, and actually maybe I'll talk about that in the Kickstarter. Um, but we're giving for kind of our prototype copies. They're coming with two roles because that's kind of what we're comfortable with where we have two roles as far as the gameplay wise. That's the crafter and the farmer. And then we have the town, and so that's we're really honing in on the iterating of those two roles and how they integrate. And I think you spent quite a bit of time the past few weeks just like kind of honing in the rule book and the journals as well, because each of the characters kind of has their mini rule book, and we're calling those journals. I don't know, any challenges with that. I know how we're doing a tutorial. There's just kind of a natural challenge. I don't know if we've talked about our tutorial too much for Mythwind.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, the challenge I think partly is just kind of making sure they're all consistent and that Um, basically, the journal is there to work hand in hand with the tutorial that's in the game. So as you play the first time, the season deck and the event deck and the adventure deck all work together to create a tutorial to explain the mechanics to you as you're playing the game. And the journal for your character is also doing that. So it's telling you what action to take on this game day. And that will last 6 game days essentially. And by the end of your sixth turn or sixth game day, you should have a grasp of those core mechanics with some hints at like kind of how to best utilize them.
Yeah,
Um,
there's this thing common in video games. It's called FATUI, and it's an acronym that stands for First Time User Experience, FATUI. And video games do it really well, and so well in the sense of we actually don't really notice how they end up teaching us the layers of systems that games have. And board games, I think, are just discovering. We're kind of growing up in a sense, and we're discovering that we can actually do a good first time user experience also, because typically board game, you have to have someone in your gaming group that enjoys spending a couple hours getting to know the game. Maybe they play it by themselves first before having friends over. They watch a couple videos and then they can teach it. But recently, there's been a couple games, specifically comes to mind like Jaws of a Lion, has a really good first-time user experience. I know Oath is attempting to do something where it introduces you to the game, and we're really adamant that that Mythwind, we actually don't you don't need to, and we don't necessarily want you to actually read through the rule book before you start, because what we want to do, and as Nathan's talking here, we want to kind of layer on the systems of the game as you actually are playing. So you begin the setup, and you just begin layering on the systems and the complexity, so that there is no massive kind of front loaded learning time. It's kind of it's smoothed out over a couple of days, and so we're hoping to capture that. And so it's been definitely a work in progress, because it's we have this kind of arc, and then we want each of the characters to kind of go on this journey together, and so how they interact with one another, how they interact with the town, and then how they interact with their own kind of character board and learning has been it's been a challenge, but I think it's been a helpful way for us to kind of hone in on what's important and what's not important.
Yeah, completely. I mean, even as far as causing us to really think hard about why certain actions are there, and how well they interact with the town, because the actions are chained to what you do in town. So just going through that journal process caused me to really kind of reshuffle the farmer a little bit and change one of the mechanics. We now have livestock for the farmer,
Yeah.
which is a new thing. But I expect as we keep on kind of working through that rule book and getting deeper into the game, there'll be little pivot points like that. But um, yeah, the hope is that people. One of the challenges in a game like a Root, for example, that's really asymmetric, is it can be a little bit difficult teaching new roles to everybody. You're kind of teaching a new game to every single person who has a new role. And so the goal here, obviously, is that everybody can just get into the game and let the game teach them as they're playing how to use their role.
Yeah, it's good. So it's kind of our current state of game design, and we're pretty excited because next week, the hope is that we're going to send off a bunch of files to the printer, to get a handful of prototypes made. And there's a couple elements that we're printing in house, like the rule book and the journal, which don't have the graphic design finished yet. But we're printing a bunch of cards, some town boards, some other tiles and different elements. And so that the plan, we're going to send them off in boxes and get a handful of copies back, so that we can compile them here and send them out to reviewers in time. And so with our Kickstarter progress, that kind of actually ties in, right? So we have these reviewer copies, prototype copies, where we'll have one in house, and then we're going to send, I think, three around to a bunch of reviewers. They'll be able to play it and all that stuff. And I have a guy, and if you're in our Facebook group, or I think Discord, I've been sharing photos of a guy we have, Taylor, who is printing and painting our the three characters for the game. And in the box, in the core box, we'll just have kind of the 4 characters. Oh, I guess this is kind of new. We've been going back and forth a bunch of times on, okay, what is going to be included in the core box. And I know a lot of you have kind of been on this journey with us, and we've either had these kind of 2 ideas. One is like, okay, 2 roles plus the town in one box, and then another box with 2 more roles. As we've kind of gone back and forth with our manufacturers, and even our game design, and game trays, you'll hear about that soon. We've decided to have one box with 4 roles. and the town. So you buy the core box, and you'll get 4 different character roles, including the town, and you're ready to go. And then I think we're going to have a 5th player expansion available on Kickstarter as well, that you can use interchangeably with the other 4 also. And so the we're getting our prototypes kind of ready to go, which is really exciting, and we're going to ship them off with different painted miniatures, which will be very pretty. Our Kickstarter, we have like 8,600 followers on Kickstarter, so that's awesome. It's a really strong start for where we're at. And even actually just yesterday, and Nathan and I were reviewing samples from some voice actors. What are they called? Voice actors. Voice actors to record our Kickstarter video. So we have that in progress. Everything's kind of rolling up and ramping up for our Kickstarter. Boom. I'm trying to think if there's any other Kickstarter progress, Nathan. Am I missing some stuff here?
I don't believe so. I can't think of anything else.
Oh, yes. Actually, one more thing. Tabletop Simulator. So internally, we have Tabletop Simulator ready to go. Just for kind of playtesting, prototyping, all that stuff. But the plan is to have Ken from Coded Creations. So if you're on Facebook or whatever, give a search to Coded Creations. He is a Tabletop Simulator modder. He's done some games, some big games. He did Stars of Icarios for us. He's done, I think he's done like Nemesis, and maybe a few other games as well. And we have him slated to create a TTS mod for us, and it will include the farmer and the crafter and the tutorial and like a season or 2 of content for the community. And the hope will be to have that kind of launch corresponding with our Kickstarter. So you can join in, you can play this like alpha version of the game, you can kind of give us feedback on it, make any suggestions, and if you're on Tabletop Simulator, you can take a hand at that, and so that's good. Okay, that's our Kickstarter progress. It's lots going on, and it's pretty great. Moving into kind of the thing that's been, I guess, our sticking point for the last week or 2 is our player boards. And so maybe a little high level kind of overview of what we were thinking and some of the challenges that we've had with our player boards. We originally were designing our player boards to be dual layer cardboard. Okay, so dual layer cardboard that sat on top of a tray, like a plastic game tray, and the dual layer cardboard would be lifted up, and you would be able to kind of get all your storage for your character. But we, after kind of discussing with Bryce from Game Trays, we're kind of in talks with them. We're shifting away from that, where we're going to have this kind of incorporated tray with kind of different graphic kind of punch outs that kind of snap into place, but also have kind of locations for all the items and dice that you collect throughout the journey, and then kind of this lid that will kind of keep everything in place. And so maybe Nathan, if you can talk a little bit to the direction that we're moving on with our different player boards and some of the challenges that have arisen with that.
Well, the direction is, I'd say we're still defining it a little bit,
Yeah.
but we're utilizing the trays both as like trackers, not the trays, rather the player boards as like trackers, and also a place where you save the state of the game. So we're trying to make sure that spaces can lock in pieces, or pieces will rest in them comfortably, and then we can have a lid on top. And then at the same time, the trays will either store stuff below the player board or will serve as that like sort of safe space. So for example, the crafter has a workshop where as you're building the items that the crafter is building, they go in these spaces in the workshop. Well, those will be little wells in the tray. So that's serving as both storage, but also a save state, because, when you put the lid on top, the pieces won't slide from one workspace section to the next. So it's that kind of stuff where we're trying to utilize the play space as storage and practical use. Another example would be there's a reputation track for the crafter, and so this is one thing we're trying to figure out exactly how it's going to play out. But essentially, we want to track 5 different types of items as your reputation, grows or possibly decreases in your ability to make these things. So um, we want to be able to basically have some kind of clicker or something where we can slide pieces along, that kind of a thing, and they'll just sort of log into place as you go. So every time you pull the game out, you already kind of have your reputation set from the previous game. Um, yeah. What else am I
Yeah,
not covering?
it is like the fundamental issue is if we were just designing a traditional one and done board game, these wouldn't be problems. We would just have a mat. You just move stuff up and down, and you put it away when you're finished. Um,
Yeah.
and so the issues, the game design for these things is like finished to the point where we're good and we're happy with it, but it's really we're trying to mend the component design with the game design and trying to kind of tie those closely together so it is as intuitive as possible and as much as like a one-stop shop, right, where you pull the tray out, you have all the elements you need. There's storage for the stuff. Your save state is just like that, and everything's just ready to go for you, so you can just play the game. And it's because it's kind of like new, and we want to make sure we get it right. We're taking our time a bit on it. So much so that we'll see if we hit our Kickstarter date. There's a couple things that we want to get right, and we don't want to push or force the Kickstarter date if we're not ready. And we want to be ready. And this is one of those elements that I think is unique enough that we want to be able to show it and show this is why this is something to like kind of jump in and really experience. That's just new. And so it has been a challenge. It's kind of frustrating in a sense because these areas that are so I guess it's so important getting this right. It doesn't just happen overnight. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of iteration, a lot of good designs that get tossed aside and then picked up again and whatever it is, right? So it is a lot of just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what fits and what doesn't. But yeah,
I think we both feel there's a really good opportunity here though, because to compare it to the one and done style game, this is more of a challenge to make work, but the opportunity is that once it does work, it's not only kind of a cool hook that you get to save your board game, but it just means that the setup is immediate,
yeah.
right? And any one and done game, maybe you don't have to worry about these complications as a publisher, but it means for the player that they're having to set up every single time they want to play. Whereas this should be much easier to just jump right into it every time you set up a new session.
Yeah, and I think that's the promise that we're trying to go after, which is like it's not even like quick setup. It's like immediate setup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right? It's like literally just pulling the things out of the box, taking off the lid, and playing, which is different than like pulling things out of the box, arranging them, putting them in place, and it's just different. And so it is this thing where we're reaching on, we're grasping, and we're hopeful, and I think we're optimistic that we can get something that's really clever and useful, that kind of enhances the gameplay experience and it's not just like this little gimmick, because who cares about a gimmick if it's not useful, and so that's really what we've been pressing into lately.
Well, we could time ourselves once we get everything set up physically and see how long it takes to get a session started, and then we'll put a like little sticker on the box.
Yeah.
Start playing under 43 seconds.
43, that's too long, Nathan. 20,
Okay,
21
great.
or bust. Either
I like
either
it.
we set up in 21 seconds or throw up the whole game. Different game. Um, I don't know. We'll have to call it storm wind, quick wind, time wind,
Quick wind.
quick wind. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Great. Hey, well, uh, I don't know if there's anything else. So that's kind of takes me through the list of where we're at with things. Happy to kind of continue answering questions if you post them in Discord or Facebook. Thanks for joining us, Nathan. And any other words as we close out here?
No, just every kind of step here feels like we're closer to that Kickstarter goal. So excited to solve the challenges we're facing with how we want the trays to look, and then getting the graphic design sorted out, and then I feel like we can really show a cool next milestone to the people.
Yeah, it'll be sweet to kind of reveal it. Great. Hey, well, everyone, thanks for joining. I'm gonna sign off now.
Thanks, everyone.